Over the past few days, there have been a number of reports emerging from various media outlets about talks between Israel and South Sudan. Israel's Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs recently met with the South Sudanese president in what has been described as the highest level of visit thus far by an Israeli official to the country. Officials from both countries claim that this meeting was simply about improving relations and discussing economic deals, nothing else. But many insiders here claim that the real agenda behind these discussions is that Israel is trying to work a deal to forcibly expel the Palestinians from Gaza to camps in South Sudan. South Sudan, for its part, has strongly denied this is the case, calling them baseless allegations. So, the question is, are these just rumours, or is this a legitimate plan that both countries want to keep hidden? And if so, why of all places South Sudan? To answer these questions, let's start with some context. So, unless you've been living under a rock, you will probably be aware that in the past 18 months, Israel has completely decimated Gaza in what is widely seen as a genocide. And there's been a lot of evidence in recent months that strongly indicate that Israel wants to ethnically cleanse the Palestinians from Gaza on a permanent basis. Various high-level Israeli officials have openly talked about voluntary migration or depopulation of Palestinians in Gaza to third countries, which many say is just code word for ethnic cleansing. Meanwhile, on the ground, Israel has systematically destroyed Gaza's healthcare system, civilian infrastructure, the majority of its homes, created a man-made famine, and is pushing the entirety of the population towards concentration camps in Rafah. And amid all of this, the US, on behalf of Israel, has been trying to pressure neighbouring Arab states, Egypt and Jordan, into accepting Palestinians into their countries as part of Trump's takeover of Gaza plan, threatening to halt billions in aid to the two countries if they don't comply. But all Arab countries, especially Egypt, who shares a border with Gaza and Israel, have strongly rejected the notion of accepting Palestinian refugees from Gaza, no matter what incentives or punishments there are. The political, economic, and societal consequences would just be too big for them, and it seems that they're not budging on this position. So, what now? Well, because Israel is unable to convince its Arab neighbours, it seems that it is shifting its focus to a country who is more willing to consider this plan, who is more desperate, who is more politically, economically, and diplomatically vulnerable. Enter South Sudan. South Sudan is the world's newest country, gaining independence from Sudan in 2011, but it struggled to recover from a deadly civil war that broke out soon after in 2013, which killed nearly 400,000 people and left many parts of the country facing famine. Now, despite ending in a fragile truce in 2020, the nation is still plagued by corruption, ethnic violence, and depends heavily on international aid to feed its 11 million citizens. On top of this, it already hosts hundreds of thousands of refugees from other neighbouring African countries who have gone through their own conflicts. So this is a country that desperately needs money and friends. And so it seems likely that Israel has gone up to them and said, hey, we can offer you some exclusive trade deals and even get the US on your side if you take in the Palestinians from Gaza. And South Sudan, for its part, seems to be seriously considering it. According to Joe Slavik, the founder of a US lobbying firm working with South Sudan, he was briefed by South Sudanese officials on the talks. And he said that the country, in return, wants the Trump administration to lift the travel ban and remove sanctions on some South Sudanese elites. At the moment, we don't know all the details, and there could indeed be more incentives at play here. But if this is all that South Sudan is asking for, then it seems likely that the Trump administration will oblige on behalf of Israel. But there's more, because South Sudan is not the only country under consideration by Israel as a potential partner for its ethnic cleansing campaign. Because the AP have reported that Israel and the US have floated similar proposals with Sudan, Somalia, and the breakaway region of Somaliland. Similar to South Sudan, each of these countries are going through a very rough time, and so are in desperate need of allies, finances, and security. For example, South Sudan is going through a civil war and would benefit highly from US sanctions relief and economic aid. Somalia also needs economic and military aid as it grapples with various terrorist groups. And Somaliland has been seeking international recognition as an independent state for a long time, so recognition by the US and its allies would be huge. And this prospect would also further incentivize Somalia to accept refugees, in fear of Somaliland getting the diplomatic upper hand. So it seems that there are many cards that Israel and the US could play here with a variety of different countries, meaning that this plan, however crazy, is not as far-fetched as it sounds. It should be noted, however, that there is already some resistance to this plan by South Sudanese people. After all, bringing in millions of people from another continent into a country already beset with ethnic tensions and violence seems only likely to create more conflict. But South Sudan is notoriously known for not being very democratic, and human rights abuses and corruption are rampant, so it seems unlikely that the government would listen to any of the concerns of the people. There are also questions about how any such plan could be practically implemented. For example, how do you physically transfer hundreds of thousands of Palestinians from one continent to another? Israel has in the past deported refugees and asylum seekers to various African countries like Rwanda and Uganda, but these numbers have been in the thousands, nowhere near the 2 million or so Palestinians in Gaza, and that plan was ultimately abandoned in 2018. Also, to be very clear, this plan is completely illegal under international law. The 4th Geneva Convention prohibits forced or coerced civilian transfers. And so if this plan does happen, it would likely amount to another war crime or crime against humanity. But then again, Israel and the US have repeatedly shown that they simply don't care about international law. They've crossed seemingly every red line there is, so this aspect would not matter to them. And finally, if we take a look at this from a moral perspective, it's just plain wrong. Palestinians aren't just cattle that you can kick out of their homeland and just dump somewhere else. There should be no ethnic cleansing in the first place, let alone discussions over which country to send them to and why. I mean, at times when I was writing the script for this video, I just couldn't believe that I was actually having to consider the practical and political implications of such a plan. When if we just zoom out and take a look at this on a human level, it's just so wrong. Israel and the US seem to be serious about ethnically cleansing Gaza. And because they can't seem to convince the Arab world to accept their plan, they're now reaching out to vulnerable African states. There are already huge practical issues with this plan, let alone the moral and legal ones. So it remains to be seen whether this plan will actually happen. But if it does go ahead, it will set another very dangerous precedent, as then other countries will see this and use it as a green light to ethnically cleanse their own so-called unwanted populations instead of actually respecting their human rights. Israel's Western allies, particularly the ones in Europe, should do more to pressure Israel to end its atrocities in Gaza and give Palestinians the right to self-determination. Anything less will only put us further down a path to a more dangerous world, and will only create more conflict and problems. However, judging by how passive Western countries have been so far over Gaza, it seems that this reality is becoming less far-fetched and outlandish than it should be. Thank you for watching this video on this important topic. If you found this explainer and analysis useful, then please consider supporting this channel through either becoming a £1 per month patron or donating a one-off amount using the links in the description. I do all of this work myself, so if, for example, I had 1,000 people who all committed to donating £1 a month, then I would have more than enough finances to continue doing this. If not, then at the very least, just like and share the video and leave your thoughts and comments below. Until next time.